The rain fell in sheets across the starport's landing platform, each drop hissing against the scorched metal where ships once landed. Elsa stood motionless, her military-issued coat pulled tight against the cold, her eyes fixed on the empty sky. 3 years. 3 years since she'd left Earth, since she'd kissed Leo goodbye and promised to return. The war had ended 6 months ago. The victory parades had concluded. The politicians had given their speeches. But Elsa had stayed behind on the frontier worlds, searching through burnt colonies and shattered stations, looking for the one person who mattered more than medals or glory. Her neural implant chirped softly. Another dead end. Another colony with no records of survivors. Leo's transport had been caught in the Draconis sector when the Krell launched their final desperate assault. 200 ships lost, 40,000 souls scattered across the void. Lieutenant Chen, a voice crackled through her comm. Starport's closing in 30 minutes. Last shuttle to New Terra leaves in 20. Elsa didn't respond. She'd waited this long. What was another night? The humans had won the war, yes, but the cost had been staggering. Elsa had led her unit through 14 major engagements, lost half her squad, and earned enough scars, both visible and hidden, to last a lifetime. She'd done it all for humanity's survival. She'd done it all to return to Leo. But Leo was gone. A movement in the peripheral darkness caught her attention. 4 shapes emerged from the storm, small figures huddled together beneath what looked like a salvaged emergency blanket. Children, she realized. Out here, alone? Elsa's combat instincts flared. She moved toward them, hand instinctively reaching for the plasma pistol at her hip. Identify yourselves, she commanded, her voice carrying the weight of 3 years of warfare. The blanket fell away. Elsa froze. They weren't human children. They stood on digitigrade legs, their bodies covered in iridescent scales that shimmered even in the dim light. Membranous wings, too small for flight yet, folded against their backs. Their eyes, large and luminous, held an intelligence that made her breath catch. Draconis. Dragon children. The enemy's offspring. Her hand tightened on her weapon. The Krell had used Draconis shock troops as living weapons, creatures bred and engineered for war. Humanity had fought them across a dozen star systems. She'd killed their kind by the hundreds, but these were children, no more than 4 or 5 years old in human terms. They trembled in the rain, their scales dulled by malnutrition, their eyes wide with something between fear and desperate hope. The smallest one stepped forward. Its voice, when it spoke, was surprisingly clear despite the universal translator's slight distortion. "Mama's sorry we're late." Elsa's world tilted. What? The child, she couldn't help but think of it that way now, pulled something from a small pouch at its side. A data chip battered and scorched. "Mama made us promise. Find Elsa Chen, Starport 7, say the words." With shaking hands, Elsa took the chip and slotted it into her neural interface. Leo's face materialized in her vision, his warm brown eyes filled with the same gentle determination she remembered. But he looked different, thinner, scared. The timestamp showed 3 months ago. "Elsa," his recorded voice whispered, "if you're seeing this, then I kept my promise. I stayed alive. But things got complicated out here." The recording flickered, showing a burned-out colony ship's medical bay. Leo stood there in a torn lab coat surrounded by 4 small forms in makeshift cribs. "When the Krell attacked our transport, we crashed on Draconis 4. Most didn't make it. But I found these 4 in the wreckage of a Krell breeding facility. Elsa, they'd been abandoned. Left to die. Hatchlings barely a week old. I couldn't just leave them." Tears streamed down Elsa's face, mixing with the rain. Leo's image smiled sadly. "I know what you're thinking. They're the enemy. But Elsa, they're children. They didn't choose this war. And when I held them, when I fed them, and they looked at me with those eyes, they called me Mama. They chose me as their parent. The way Draconis young imprint on their primary caregiver." The recording showed Leo tending to the hatchlings, teaching them words, keeping them safe in the ruins. "The sickness got bad last month. Radiation poisoning from the crash. I don't have long now. But I taught them everything I could. Taught them about you. About Earth. About humanity's capacity for both war and compassion. I programmed the coordinates into their neural matrices. They'll find you. Please, Elsa. Please don't let my last act in this universe be a mistake. They're innocent. They're ours." The recording ended with Leo's final words. "I love you. I'm sorry I couldn't wait. But maybe this is how we win the real war, not with weapons but with mercy. Elsa stared at the 4 small dragons shivering before her, the enemy's children, Leo's children. Her eyes burned with tears she'd held back for months. The largest of the 4 stepped forward again. Mama, Leo said you're brave. Said you fight for what's right. Said you'd understand. Its voice cracked. We're sorry we're late. We tried to be fast. But we're just kids. And we miss Mama. Something broke inside Elsa then. Not her spirit, that had been broken and reforged too many times. No, it was the wall she'd built between soldier and human. Between survivor and living. She dropped to her knees in the rain and opened her arms. 4 dragon children crashed into her embrace, their scales cold and wet, their small bodies trembling with relief and grief. They cried, a sound somewhere between a chirp and a sob, and Elsa held them tight. I'm here, she whispered. Mama's here now. I'm sorry I'm late too. Humanity had won the war against the Krell, but as Elsa stood there with 4 enemy children in her arms, she realized that Leo had won something greater, a chance for peace. A chance for the next generation to be something more than soldiers. Come on, she said softly, gathering them close. Let's go home. The starport officer who found them minutes later saw a decorated war hero surrounded by 4 dragon children, all of them holding on to each other like family. He raised his weapon, started to call for security. Elsa looked up, her eyes hard as steel. These are refugees under my protection. They're coming with me. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with humanity's conscience. No one stopped them as they boarded the last shuttle, and as the ship lifted off into the clearing sky, Elsa looked down at the 4 sleeping forms curled against her and smiled through her tears. Leo had left her one final mission. And this time she wouldn't fail. This time she'd fight for peace.